Hi, I'm Kat and welcome to my kitchen. Thanksgiving is right around the corner and everyone's been asking me to share what my favorite Thanksgiving recipes are. I figured why not put together a little video and show you all out there some simple vegan recipes that will be a sure crowd pleaser at any Thanksgiving feast. So this afternoon I'm going to show you how to make mashed potatoes and gravy vegan style. They're totally cholesterol free, but no one at your dinner table will know it. So we'll be right back and I'm gonna get started on these mashed potatoes. Alright, so let's get started. We're gonna start with the mashed potatoes first. So I bought some petite potatoes last week and I made a pound here of mixed potatoes, red skins. We've got some petite red skins and some Yukon Golds. So it doesn't matter, you can use your Idaho potatoes, your baking potatoes, that's totally fine. And I definitely use those a lot to make mashed potatoes. This is what I had, so this is what I'm using. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I'm a big fan and an advocate of improvising in the kitchen. Regardless, you want to take a pound of potatoes. You can decide to peel them or not. I'm going with a rustic mashed potato this afternoon, so I am not peeling my potatoes. I'm going to just mash them as is. So I put my potatoes in the pot here and I'm going to cover them with water. Okay, so I'm going to cover these to get this water boiling faster. And we're going to boil those probably for about 10 minutes, just until they're soft. And I have a great tool for testing they're soft. I have this awesome turning fork. It's got some sharp tines on the end. You just stick a fork in it, it's done. Not to be cheesy and cliche, but seriously, if you can stick a fork in the mashed potato or in the boiled potato, it's done. So, and it really doesn't take long, especially with these petites. So we'll be back. So while my potatoes are boiling, I'm going to go ahead and get started on my gravy. This is sage and onion gravy, and this is one of the very first things I brought to a family meal when I first became vegan years ago, and it was an instant hit. So I make this all the time. I make this gravy for brunch, any type of dinner. It's great on top of veggie loaf. And I actually got this recipe from the Grit cookbook, the Grit Vegetarian Restaurant Cookbook. It's an awesome cookbook. It's got all kinds of down-home recipes. So that was sort of our go-to manual for my first vegan Thanksgiving. My mom and I went through that. We looked at recipes online and we came up with some awesome sides. So this has been a favorite ever since then. Like I said, it's sage and onion gravy. So the recipe calls for 3 yellow onions to be chopped into strips. So I didn't have yellow onions, I had red onions. So I had a couple yellow onions, but I need them for another recipe and I only had 2, I didn't have 3. So I went ahead and chopped up the red onion. I have made this recipe with red onion before in another time of desperation and it turned out fine. It's obviously a little bit different of a flavor, but you know, oh well. I really just want to stress to all of you out there, especially if you're fairly new to cooking, you're trying to find some simple recipes and you're having to relearn how to cook because you're changing over to a more plant-based diet. It's important that you understand that you can just do whatever. I mean, substitute a different onion, who cares? As long as it's prepared right and you taste your flavors, you don't salt too much, you'll be good. So I'm melting 2 tablespoons of Earth Balance Natural Buttery Spread. I'm melting that in my saucepan here. And it's pretty much melted. And now I'm going to add my onions. And it seems like a lot of onions. And I actually might not, these were pretty big ones, so I might do like, not quite. I'm leaving that's probably about a half an onion, but these were, as I said, these were large onions. So 3 just standard size yellow onions would be perfect. And so that's about 2 1/2. So I'm going to saute these until they're translucent. The first time we made this, my mom was like, that seems like way too much onion, but it cooks down. Okay, so while that's sauteing, I'm just going to go over some of the other ingredients in this recipe. I have a 4th cup whole wheat flour, organic whole wheat flour, and a 4th cup nutritional yeast. If you don't know about nutritional yeast, you definitely should. It is so awesome for making any kind of vegan sauce, a gravy. It's really good for thickening soups and making them creamier. Anytime you want to make something creamier or give it sort of that cheesy flavor, that sort of saltiness, and plus it's high in vitamin B, it's vitamin B12, so it's really good for you as well. So a 4th cup each whole wheat flour and nutritional yeast. And then this is 2/3 cup water and a 4th cup soy sauce combined. We're going to gradually add that, you'll see later. I have some extra flour here on hand just in case. We're making gravy here, people, so sometimes, you know, you might need to add a little bit more flour. This is a spice blend mix. It's 2 teaspoons rubbed sage, or 1½ teaspoon if you just have the ground sage. I believe it's a ½ teaspoon salt, a ½ teaspoon white pepper, which I love white pepper. It's one of my favorite spices to cook with. And this recipe actually turned me on to white pepper, and I started using it a lot after I discovered it. And that's why I always say becoming vegan really helps you to expand your palate and start to season with different spices and more spices and herbs. So let me see if I missed anything in here. Oh yeah, a pinch of dry mustard, ground mustard seed, and also 1 tablespoon. The recipe calls for a tablespoon of onion powder, but I didn't have any onion powder, so I just used dried onion. That's what I had, onion flakes, and we're going to use those in mashed potatoes as well. The onions are almost done. Check the potatoes. So my fork can go in, but not all the way on its own, so I'm going to wait on those. And so, anyway, so I just went and took a glance at my recipe in the Grit cookbook, and I have a correction to make. It says 2 large yellow onions in the recipe, so therein lies the issue why I felt like I had so many extra onions this time, is because I chopped 3 large red onions. You really only need 2 large onions, so there you have it. Double check the recipe, even if it's one you make all the time. But geez, that does seem like a lot of onions. Okay, so here we go. I'm adding my 4th cup flour and my 4th cup nutritional yeast. And I'm stirring it in, and then I'm going to add my spice blend mix. Okay, and now I'm going to slowly add this. Here's where it's really important to have the right tool. This is an awesome whisk that I got from Cutco, and it's great for making sauces, so I need to add more of this. So you just slowly add that in, and you stir the gravy with a whisk. So here's the gravy, and we still have a little more soy sauce and water combo to add. And then we're going to bring this to a simmer until it thickens up a little bit. The gravy's starting to simmer. I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the liquid. I'm going to check my potatoes. And those are done. Woo. They're done. They're falling. Yeah, I just cut one like completely in half with just the fork. So those are done. So I'm going to drain those so they cool, and then we're going to blend everything in the food processor. So I'm gonna bake these. You don't have to make them baked. You can serve them just mashed, but I love them baked, so I'm gonna preheat my oven to 350 right now. And I'm gonna drink this. I just gave myself a potato steam facial. All right, we'll set that there. Gravy is not anywhere near thick enough yet, so I'm going to turn up the temperature a little bit. So right now I'm at the higher end of medium high. And we're starting to simmer again. Alright, so just going to let those potatoes cool. I'm going to let this simmer. And I'll be back as soon as I have an update. It's almost done. Stir here. Then I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to cover it and remove it from the heat and move on to finishing the potatoes. And the reason I'm going to do that, even though I typically like my gravy a little bit thicker than what it is right now, I'm turning it off now because the potatoes are about a half an hour from being done. And this gravy does tend to thicken up as it sits. Plus we can always turn it back on if it cools too much. We can turn it back on, it'll thicken up more, and it'll be nice and hot when the potatoes are. This is like the best invention ever for the kitchen. I am obsessed with my food processor. You can do so many cool things with it, and honestly, I really don't know what I would do without it. It was probably the best Christmas present I ever got. So, here we go. So, food processors are obviously awesome for combining foods and mashing them and stuff like that, but I'm still going to chop these potatoes into, they don't have to be into small pieces, but just kind of, a couple inch, 1 to 2 inch pieces. It's probably better if they're a little bit cooler than that. I love potatoes. There you go. So now I'm going to add some Vegenaise. This is about a half a cup, and I'm probably going to use the whole thing. This is instead, actually let's not put quite all that in to start. Got a potato with it. So this is a substitute for sour cream. My mom always makes the garlic mashed potatoes with sour cream, and they're so good. I'm not going to lie. I mean, they're good. I don't think good is the question here. But Vegenaise is a really good substitute for sour cream. So I always use that in mashed potatoes instead. And then I have 2 tablespoons Earth Balance, which is kind of a lot, but it's mashed potatoes. And I have 4 cloves garlic. I didn't really chop those up. I think they'll be okay. Plus, I personally don't mind a chunk of garlic or 2. And then I'm going to add some salt. Fresh ground sea salt. Probably want to put about a half a teaspoon or so of salt in here, I would say. Some dried onion. Onion powder, again, would probably work better in this recipe too. But I'm using what I have. What can I say? The title of this video should be How to Cook Without a Recipe. This should be the title of my cookbook. This is some dried parsley, and I use dried parsley all the time. And I'm just putting a little bit on here. I don't know, it's probably about a tablespoon. I love dried parsley. I use tons of it. We're going to do black pepper now. Three-fourths teaspoon. Something like that should be good. Okay, so let's turn on the food processor and see what we've got going on here and if we need to add more Vegenaise. I probably want to put a splash of rice milk in here, so let me get that. I don't need a lot. Ooh, it looks great. Just a splash. Oh, these look so pretty, and there's no need for any more Vegenaise. I can tell by looking at it. So I put about a half a cup of Vegenaise in here, and they look awesome. I'm gonna go get the camera so you guys can see. Look at those. Don't they look good? I probably blended it. So I mentioned that I thought I blended the mashed potatoes a little bit too long, and then I added some other stuff. What I added was a little bit more salt and about another tablespoon of Vegenaise. I tasted it. It didn't taste quite sour creamy enough, so I went ahead and put that in. What I should have done is just stir it together with my spoon, but I hit pulse again, and that is one thing with the food processor. You have to keep an eye on it, or else you get it blended a little too efficiently, but that's okay. It's mashed potatoes. They're good and mashed, that's for sure. So I'm gonna put them in here in my casserole. Okay, now I'm gonna top the potatoes with some cornmeal breadcrumbs. Just enough to cover it. I like cornmeal breadcrumbs, or they're actually not cornmeal, they're cornflake breadcrumbs. I'm gonna cover it, and I'm gonna bake it for 30 minutes at 350, and we're gonna see where we're at. My timer has been going off for forever. And I've been working on my computer, so let's check this stuff. Ooh, look at those. Perfect. So, as you can see, it's got this little golden brown edge, and that's what you want, and it's got a little golden brown crust on top too. So that's how we know those are done.